Hey everybody, Mac here. Uh, I'm really excited today on our Veterans Achieve Business Systems Mastermind. We are going in a different direction, not where we're changing our format, but we are tagging this Voices to Valor, and it's to hear the stories of those that wore the jacket, veterans, law enforcement, and first responders. We have Val Burgess with us, who may be the best storyteller in the world. When it comes to telling hero stories, she has a very large collection, and we'll find out a little bit more where people can get to know you, Val. But I'm just going to turn this over to you and let you take it away, so we have every minute possible of your time.
What I want to talk about today is I'm going to tell some stories, but I'm going to relate them to resilience and also to unconditional forgiveness. And I'm going to, I think, Steve, you might have heard this story, and I apologize if you have to hear it again, but to give
That's
you,
fine.
okay, but to give you some context, and Sonia doesn't know, for the last 30 years, well, since 1993, it's 32 years, I've been doing oral histories of World War II prisoners of war. I have over 200. I've got the largest collection of Radio Tokyo letters in the United States. I've got a massive number of books, and right now I'm writing a book. But the point is that I grew up in a helpful family, and these people came to my rescue and really taught me how to live and what issues, we all sort of deal with. And I learned so much from them. My husband had a bone marrow stem cell transplant, bone marrow transplant, basically, in 2001. And it was so difficult. It was life and death every other day. And what I share with military is that life and death experience because it was so stressful for me. And one of the POWs, he called me to see how I was doing because we were living in Seattle at the time and he lived close to Seattle. And so he was going to come see us. And he says, well, what are you doing? And so I started telling him the list of things that I had to do besides work, besides kids, besides all of that. And he said to me, my dear, you have just been in combat. And I thought, oh my God, it was nothing like what many of these men experienced, but the life and death piece of it was so changeable, so good one day, so bad the next that you can't, well, I don't know, maybe some of you can understand, but it was so difficult on me that I was actually suicidal. But when he told me that, it was like, oh my God, if they could do what they had to do, I can do what I have to do. And so it was a real starter for me to look at life a little bit different and to realize I can do whatever I want whenever I decide. Well, you know what I mean, within reason, but certainly to use that as a launch for other people as well. And I think the military, I worry sometimes that my stories don't fit for them. And yet they do. I mean, because some of these men had as extreme of experiences as they did. I mean, they were, oh, if you were a Pacific POW, you were very likely you had more chance of dying than you did of living. And many of those felt like it was easier to die than to live. I there was one man that I met, and it was so funny because I met him I met him after my niece's wedding and the party, and I went to his house. It was dark outside, and he comes with his cane and he's bent over and he walks up the the sidewalk, and we go into his house and we start doing his oral history. And I kept looking at him, and he kept looking younger and younger and younger. And it was like, what's going on? And all of a sudden he jumped out of his chair and ran down the hall to get something to show me because it was a water bottle, a metal water bottle that he had gotten because the man died, and he had engraved on it, and he wanted me to see the words that were on that. And it was just so funny that from being bent over in a cane walking up the stairs to jumping out of his chair and running down the hallway, there was something about that experience that was important to him, important enough that he forgot that he was older, I guess. And it was really remarkable. So he said to me, he said he was actually he was in at Clark Field when the attack on the Philippines occurred. And it was not very long. He was also a Bataan Death Marcher. But he was a lucky Bataan Death Marcher because he lost his shoes. Somebody stole them and he couldn't find them. And two of the guys that were in his unit helped him look for it. All the POWs were gone. And so the Japanese would come get them, but they thought they would kill him because they were killing lots of people those days. And they didn't. They drove up with a truck with some officers, some American officers in it, and they loaded those three guys up and they drove them all the way up until they got on the trains, and that was horrible as well. But when they were, after they were walked, they were taken to Camp O'Donnell. And he said to me that it was like a big field with barbed wire around it. And there were men lying on the ground with feces running out of their legs. They were so sick. And he didn't want to get sick, so he went up across the top of everybody, and he went as close as he could get to the side and stuck his legs out and got as close as he could to be out of there so he was away from all of those who were ill. He was really smart about those sorts of things. And so he was at O'Donnell, then he was at Cabanatuan, then he went on a hell ship all the way to Niigata, Japan, and he was working on the docks, and they were freezing and they were cold, but he had gone to school to learn about how to make things easier. That's not the way you say it, but you know, how he could help them make it easier. And they were taking pig iron and taking it out of coolies' carts and putting it in, or putting it on the ground and then putting it in a rail cart. And so he talked to one of them, and it was a woman, and talked her into letting him just take it out of the cart into the rail car. And what happened is they were more successful. They got more done. And the men who were on that same route, they wanted to do the same. And that made the guards very happy because the more they produced, the better off they were. So they got them extra soup, they got them beans to put in their mess, you know, is their kitchen, so that they could feed themselves. And so they were all in better shape. And when the Americans, excuse me, when the Americans were doing this, they didn't want the Japanese to know how good they felt, because they feared they would really put this, you know, really push them to do much more and much more and much more. So they didn't bother. One day, there was a fight between airplanes and ships, and it was the Allies in the airplanes, and it was the Japanese in the ships. Excuse me. It was over with, and a few days later, they were told that they didn't have to work that day because the war was over with.